So somehow we already find ourselves in the month of November in 2023, and let me tell you, this year has been jam-packed with major new game releases, and November is no different. Surprisingly enough, if your gaming schedule is already packed with a bunch of games you're trying to get through, well, we're gonna add some more to your list today. I wanna go through all of the best new Nintendo Switch game releases this month that did stick out to me, that many of which I will be picking up these games myself, or at least giving them a playthrough at some point in time, and we need to hop right into it, so make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification if you're new here. And first on our list is one by the name of Ninja or Die Shadow of the Sun, and this stuck out to me really due to the action animation style. It's very intense when you're attacking enemies. Of course, we're looking at a game here that is very reminiscent of that Sega Genesis, SNES era that we see so many games developed in the style of nowadays. I tend to enjoy a lot of these games, so I normally talk about them on lists like these. But as mentioned, the combat looks very intriguing, looks super intense. It may be on the more difficult side. It's actually a game that's already out as of November 1st, so I will be taking a second look at Ninja or Die on the Nintendo Switch. As of November 2nd, the Smurfs 2, The Prisoner of the Green Stone is out right now, and you can check out this game. Surprisingly, it's a 3D Smurfs game that doesn't look half bad. It actually reminds me a little bit of Ratchet and Clank vibes, but it does look like you're kind of farming materials at some points. You're definitely going through a lot of crazy enemy boss battle type scenarios, in addition to platforming through various different stages. It's not super common to see games in this style, so it's one that, like Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, it kind of gives me those type of vibes, and I would definitely look into it if you're a fan of those. And this is one that I didn't really have on my radar before this video, but it looks good enough that it sold me on taking a second look at it. Star Ocean: The Second Story R is available right now as well as of November 2nd. This one has a beautiful presentation style. It's the first thing that stuck out to me when we saw it featured at the Nintendo Direct. It is that 2D pixel art style, but in a 3D environment, if it makes sense to say it like that. That's kind of what's going on here. It's a very unique take on kind of merging together two different gameplay visual styles in the same world, and I'm really a big fan of it. That visual style alone is really what has gotten my interest peaked for this. I am not somebody who is super familiar with the Star Ocean franchise, but my understanding is that this is a remake of Star Ocean 2, and review scores of this game have been very high on Metacritic as well, so JRPG fans, don't sleep on this one. It is out right now on the Nintendo Switch. WarioWare Move It is next on our list. It, of course, is out today at the time that this video is going live. And if you've played a WarioWare game at all, you kind of know what to expect from this already. Surprisingly, we are getting 2 entries in the WarioWare series on the Nintendo Switch, as opposed to, we normally get like 1 per generation. Anyway, it's a bunch of micro games, as Nintendo calls them themselves. And this is really one that I think you would have a lot more fun booting up around a group of local friends that are over, some family members, stuff like that. More casual gamers that maybe aren't into the super hardcore button control type stuff can actually get into this game, because primarily a lot of these are based around motion. And it does look like, with the party mode within the game, it's almost like Mario Party style vibes, where you're going through like a little board that have various different consequences, I'm assuming. So looks good for a WarioWare game. These are not the type that necessarily attract my interest all that much, but I may pick it up just to have around in case if I do want to boot it up in a party scenario. And that is available right now on the Nintendo Switch. Also out on November 3rd, Jamanji Wild Adventures. This is an interesting action-adventure puzzle-style game. It looks like the 4-player co-op element is really what this game is built around. I'm sure you can play it single-player as well, but it looks like you probably would have a lot more fun going through this with some friends locally. I'm not sure if it does online play or not. It has more of a budget, indie-developed 3D type of vibe to it. And while I'll probably skip this one myself, I did feel like it was worth talking about with the co-op element, the platforming elements, the action elements involved as well. The trailer didn't look half bad to me, so maybe look into Jamanji on Nintendo Switch if you're wanting some 4-player co-op goodness. Nickelodeon AllStar Brawl 2 is already out somehow. I think we were just talking about Nickelodeon AllStar Brawl 1 not even that long ago, so I'm kind of surprised this game actually has a second version already. It definitely does show off in the trailer that they have upgraded the visuals quite a bit, so maybe they just didn't like the entire foundation and direction of the first game, so they decided to just spruce up the visuals, maybe some of the gameplay elements, and then just kind of do like a fresh start reboot. But it is number 2 clearly in the title, and so bunch of your classic Nickelodeon characters. I don't know if they did voice acting this time around. I think that was one of the big gripes with Nickelodeon Brawl, All-Star Brawl 1, is that there was no voice acting, so hopefully they did. Looks like it's a better version of what the first one was, but for me with Smash clones, they really have to be notable to stand out. I did enjoy playing the game briefly when I checked it out, but I never really got hooked into playing it regularly. I always just find myself going back to Super Smash Bros. If I want that style of gameplay, and it's really hard for a Smash clone to come anywhere close to that level of quality, but nonetheless, it is out on November 7th this month, and it's of course a multi-platform release, but will be headed to the Switch. Salt and Sacrifice is next on our list, also out on November 7th. I remember playing Salt and Sanctuary, and I believe that this is a direct sequel to that game. This is essentially a 2D version of a Dark Souls themed game. If you took Dark Souls and you put it into a 2D world, this is essentially what they go for with that Salt and Sanctuary, or this Salt and Sacrifice, for the direction of their game. The boss fights are going to be incredibly difficult, not to mention you'll have various different just regular enemy encounters that are difficult. I remember dying on Salt and Sanctuary numerous times. You do level up your character, you do unlock various different weapons and abilities and upgrades and things like that, so it has a nice gameplay loop in my opinion. Just get ready to die a lot, but I do think that it's really cool to see another installment in this franchise, and definitely enjoy seeing a 2D take on a Dark Souls style game, which I am a huge fan of. So I will be checking this out on my Nintendo Switch. I may even get it right around release date and boot it up and see how it plays. That will once again be available on November 7th. Now, we just made a dedicated video on the new Mario Kart Booster Course Pass Wave 6 news that was dropped recently from Nintendo. We now have the release date in addition to all of the character announcements and things. So if you're into that, definitely go watch the dedicated video, but we will briefly mention it here. It is out November 9th. We have Diddy Kong, Funky Kong, Pauline, and Peachette all joining the party, and we have DK Mountain, literally my favorite track in a Mario Kart game in history period ever, so I could not be happier about that. I will definitely be booting up and playing through part of that DLC once it drops on the channel, so stay subscribed for that. And of course, if you're an expansion pack member, you already have this DLC or access to it, and if not, and if you haven't picked it up yet, it might be the perfect time to do so, because it is the final DLC pack. We will have no more updates, presumably, for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe past this, and it's pretty impressive to see the total number of playable tracks expanded from 48 all the way to 96 where it's at now. Double Dragon Collection is also available on November 9th. This is exactly what it sounds like, a collection of the Double Dragon games, which I think is really cool to see. I love it whenever classic games that are not necessarily easy to play are brought over, especially to a system like Nintendo Switch, where you have the ability to play them portably or docked, of course, and Super Double Dragon and Double Dragon Advance definitely stick out to me on this list. I have a small level of nostalgia for these games, but never really spent a ton of time with them, but that may be one that I definitely want to own for the Switch collection, and it is out once again on November 9th. Hogwarts Legacy should have been out on Nintendo Switch during the summertime, but it of course got its really big delay, and what's really suspect about this game so far is we've seen some really good looking screenshots of it, but we have not seen anything in terms of in-game Nintendo Switch footage. It is out this month, so a little bit of a red flag in my opinion. While the screenshots do look nice, we don't know how well this game runs. Clearly there were development issues because they wanted to have this game launch with the other versions across all the different platforms, and the Nintendo Switch version did get held back. Let's hope that they have everything polished up and things run smooth when this giant open world Harry Potter adventure actually drops on the platform. I think many, including myself, are impressed that this game can even come over to current gen Switch hardware, but if given the love and time, we've seen a number of different quote-unquote impossible ports brought to the Switch. This may either be another one of those, or it may be one that is a buggy mess for a few months before it gets patched up and things like that. So the jury's still out on this. I am not entirely sold on it being a great version to pick up of the game until we really see some hands-on gameplay, and the fact that it's launching on the 14th and we've only seen screenshots officially from the development company doesn't make me feel great about it. But here's hoping by November 14th that game is running great on the Switch, because I do think it's a great platform to have this very successful Harry Potter entry launch on. The Last Faith is a gothic Metroidvania Souls-like, which definitely caught my attention right away. So you can absolutely see all of the dark inspiration in terms of the level design. Gives me almost Bloodborne-esque vibes, but mixed with Castlevania and some really cool, intense gameplay. I'm sure it's going to be high up in the difficulty department. It's claiming to be a Souls-like, which oftentimes is one way of telling you that, yes, these games, you're going to die a lot in them. But character art looks really cool. 2D SNES Genesis era style gameplay, but obviously with more detail in there, crazy looking boss and beasts, not to mention some interesting cutscenes. Looks like you're transforming into a werewolf throughout part of the game. So I'm really excited to check this one out. It was another one that before doing the research of this video, I was not aware of, but I will absolutely be looking into The Last Faith when it does launch on November 15th for the Nintendo Switch, as well as other platforms. Naruto X Boruto Ultimate Ninja Storm Connections is also launching on the Switch on November 17th. If you've kind of played Dragon Ball Z games, it's a little bit similar to that in the way that you're going to progress through the entire story of the anime. All the big highlight points, that is, of course, but you're going to be battling throughout. Not entirely sure what the battle system feels like in these Naruto games. I haven't actually kept up or played through any of them that I can remember. I may have touched one briefly at like a demo somewhere or something like that, but all in all, it's worth mentioning for Naruto fans out there. It is out on the Switch on the 17th. Persona 5 Tactica is a big release that will be headed to the Nintendo Switch. This is a strategy RPG. If you know anything about the Persona series, they have a lot of lore, a lot of story to go through. It's not something that I've given the time to yet to check out. So this being kind of a subsect of Persona games with the chibi type characters, it's not exactly something that's up my alley. I'll probably skip this one out myself, but I am happy to see support for it on the Switch as well as other platforms. And again, it will be out on November 17th. And that is a busy day because we also have the biggest Nintendo Switch release of November, which is the first party Nintendo published title, which of course is none other than Super Mario RPG. There has been a ton of recent hands-on preview footage and previews going live on websites about this game, and everybody is saying that yes, it is just the classic SNES version, but given all of the love and modern visuals and modern enhancements when it comes to music and some quality of life upgrades, and people are really praising this game. It's one of those things that it's a reminder that this is maybe one of the best RPGs that has ever been developed, and it's great to see it with a modern coat of paint. And I will be picking this one up. I will definitely be keeping my eye on it as we get closer to its release. There's a lot of different footage you can go find if you want to kind of deep dive it ahead of deciding if you want to pick this game up or not. But from everything that I can tell and what's being said about it online, this will definitely be one to own in your Nintendo Switch collection if you enjoy RPGs at all. And for me, it'll be like a brand new game altogether, because while I know how big of a deal Super Mario RPG is, I never really gave it a complete playthrough, and it's been so long now that I really don't know what to expect in terms of the entire story and progression of this game. So I can't wait to live through it really for the first time for me. I'm sure we will at some point in the distant future also see the original version of this get added on to Nintendo Switch Online, but surprise, surprise, November 17th will be upon us before we know it, and Super Mario RPG will definitely be one for Nintendo Switch owners to look into adding into their collection. But I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, whether or not you're planning on picking up any new Nintendo Switch games in the month of November, which ones on today's list stood out to you, which ones did I not mention that you were planning on picking up in the month of November, and are you like me and thinking that 2023 is indeed going down as one of the best years in gaming, period. So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.